Hello guys, we're going to be making a basic cookie today, which has 1.5 cups of flour, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda, 10 tablespoons of fat, 1 cup of sugar, 3 tablespoons of liquid or 1 large egg, 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract, 1 cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips. And the idea with this recipe, the basic recipe, is to change it in order to make either a thin, puffy, or a little in between cookie. And we're going to change either the flour, the fat, the sugar. It'll be quite a few different things that we change, but we're going to see how it goes. So here we go. Okay, for the thin cookie, we're going to use a high protein flour, which is high protein flour because it absorbs a lot of liquid and makes the cookies darker and flatter. So we're going to use a bleached all-purpose flour. And the thin cookie, we're also going to use baking soda instead of baking powder because baking soda neutralizes the acidity so that the batter browns more. With the fat, we will do all of the butter so it will melt faster in the oven, causing the dough to spread faster. We'll mix 3 different sugars together in the cookie, regular table sugar and corn syrup to promote browning, and brown sugar to keep brown sugar to keep the cookie soft, since the molasses attracts moisture in the air. We want it thin, not hard. And last but not least, the large amount of milk in the recipe will allow for the dough to thin and spread quickly before cooking. So we'll see how this goes. Now for the puffy cookie, we're going to change it up. We're going to do cake flour because the low protein won't absorb as much water, causing steam in the oven, which, as y'all know, equals puffy goodness. We are also going to change the baking powder, which will help with preventing spreading in the cooking by making it bake faster. So, it's not going to spread as much throughout because it'll bake quicker. We're using butter flavored shortening this time instead of butter because it won't melt as fast. Actually, it's not going to melt at all, hopefully, allowing the cookie to spread slower while it cooks because of the low water content. Sugar is going to be 1 cup of table sugar minus 1 tablespoon of brown sugar. The tablespoon of brown sugar is to attract the moisture the table sugar lacks in order to keep the cookie from getting hard. And last but not least, for the cookie, we'll use an egg instead of milk in order to hold the cookie together and keep it from crumbling and keep it from spreading. So hopefully this one turns out just as well. Last but not least, the in-between cookie. For the in-between cookie, we're keeping the flour, baking powder, and egg from the puffy cookie, but we're completely changing the fat and sugar from both. We've completely foregone table sugar and replaced it with a mixture of light brown sugar and corn syrup, which will keep moisture and still brown the cookie. And the fat, we're mixing half real butter and half butter-flavored shortening. The butter will melt quick and causing it to spread just a little bit, and then the shortening will hold it together because it's not going to melt at all probably, and it's gonna cook in the time to keep it hold it together. So hopefully this one's a little bit in between of the puffy and the thin, so we'll see. So the thin cookie was much thinner than the other two cookies, obviously, but it was also much darker and crunchier than the other ones as well. It also spread more compared to the puffy and the in-between cookie, which was expected because of the butter. It seems a mixture of 3 different sugars definitely made it darker than the other cookies, even browning it a little bit, some of them to the point of being burnt, so that was a little concerning. But other than that, they turned out pretty good. The puffy cookie did not change shape at all compared to the other two cookies, which I expected because of the shortening, but I was surprised at just how true that was. They also didn't brown as much as the thin cookies, which I agree I expected because of the lack, I expected because of the lack of corn syrup. I was let down on the puffy part. They weren't near as cloud-like as I would like. It seems like the sugar and brown sugar still crisp them up pretty good. The in-between cookie was definitely that. It spread more than the puffy cookie, but didn't brown as much as the thin. It seems taking the table sugar out completely made for the perfect brown color, in my opinion. It also had the most cloud-like texture in the middle, with the edges still being slightly crispy. So it spread and it steamed up all at the perfect amount. It's great. In conclusion, overall, I had to make some slight changes in my process with each cookie because of trial and error. And the thin cookie, I really, honestly, don't bake very often, so I used a whisk attachment instead of a mixer, and it took too long for the butter and sugar to fluff together. I was also able to roll these cookies because of the little moisture they had, but was not able to do that with the other cookies, so that's why I think the puffy cookies didn't look as pretty. With the puffy cookies, I used the correct attachment. It was a much smoother and quicker process to beat the ingredients together. And with the in-between cookies, I changed quite a bit. I used the correct blade, and I made the cookies a little bit bigger this time because with the first 2 batches, I made sure and did 2.5 dozen like the recipe called for.